everybody. Welcome to Play for Performance. I am so excited to have our guest with us today. I'm honored to introduce Bob Goff. He is a distinguished author known for his New York Times bestselling books such as Love Does and Dream Big. And as a founder of Love Does, a nonprofit organization operating in 14 countries, Bob has demonstrated a profound commitment to human rights and empowering others to pursue their dreams. His work aligns seamlessly with our mission in Play for Performance, where we believe in harnessing creativity and strategic thinking to drive team success. Bob, I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks a million. Great to be on. It's so happy that you're encouraging people to just swing for the fences with their ambitions. And gosh, it's really worth it. If I could say one thing to people, like it'll work. And if it doesn't, fail trying, right? Don't fail
Exactly.
watching.
Right. One of the things I've always loved about you, and we met years ago, was just your just sheer joy and zest for life and for all the things that you do.
Oh man, thank you. I just think it living in anticipation. I think people think I'm just all jacked up on Red Bull or something and I think it's really just living in anticipation of what might be possible. If
Yeah.
you try it, just like give it a try. We just did a gathering. I've been teaching at San Quentin for almost a decade. And so a bunch of the men that have been released after 10, 15, 20 years in. We got them all together this weekend. I thought somebody said, "How was it?" I was going to say it was a riot. Um, but it was a really sweet time just seeing how far these guys have come. And in some areas, they probably have a little distance to go, as do I. But I think living in anticipation of what might be possible in their lives. And I think if we get our head on a swivel and start seeing what's going on around us, where the opportunities are, I think that's where a lot of the joy comes from.
I love it. I love it. You have written many, many books, but I pulled out some of my favorites.
Oh, I'm honored.
I know the Dream Big was an amazing one for me to say, you know what, I think I can do this. Catching Whimsy is your most recent that I absolutely love. It's 365 Days of Possibility. And of course, Undistracted, which I think that's where we originally met was your Undistracted launch and just understanding that what we want and where we want to be, as long as we cut out some of the noise, we absolutely can accomplish our dreams.
Yeah, I was just talking to a friend earlier today that is doing a lot of important things. And what we really got down to is this idea is so distracting to get there. And so we made it really simple. We use this analogy. I'm not much of a sports guy, but for golfers out there, there's the front nine and the back nine. Somebody was asking me, with me chronologically, they're like, "Are you in the back nine?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm on the 18th hole in the sand trap." I got you. But we kind of divided the day into the week into the front nine and the back nine: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then a Sabbath day on Sunday.
Yeah.
And so that idea of limiting these distractions to like the back nine. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is for you and I perhaps to ideate and initiate and make stuff happen. All that. Then the back nine, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, is I'm just going to be available to people. And so it just helps if somebody calls me on Tuesday, I'm thinking in my mind, you are just 2 days away from a ton of availability. But right
Mhm.
now, I need to keep my head down and do what I'm doing.
I love that. I love that. That's great advice. Play for Performance is about talking to other people that advocate for play or playfulness in the workplace. One of the things I've found is that, at least in the Americas, I see that we have this little box of what work is supposed to look like. And if it doesn't fit in that box, then the leaders are just like, out, we're not going to do it. We're not going to have fun. We're not going to, we got to keep it. What, obviously, you live by playfulness, you live by having fun. How does that go into the corporate world?
Yeah, I think we can show up that way. Not everybody has to show up. I feel like, an
I love
advocate
it.
for whimsy.
I love it.
Isn't there some senator that always wears a hoodie? That always bugged me. But I'm not a senator, and so I don't need to, but we can. It's not just whimsy, it's a strategic whimsy. That's
Mhm.
where the marketplace and then your joy and creativity come together. So on the surface, I'm thinking about giraffes and universities and all that. But underneath that is a mile of strategy.
Yeah.
And so what I do, I'm not faking it. I'm literally just in it with anticipation. But then I think that might be the trial lawyer part of me that thinks, no, I really need to know how to get there. Maybe you've heard this
Sure.
before, the idea where you have a vision
Hmm.
and then there's a strategy, a tactic, and execution. So if you
Yes.
keep repeating those four things, it's
Yeah.
vision, strategy, tactic, execution. So the strategy is like, let get the hostage out of the house. And then the tactic is we're going to send one person through the window, another SWAT guy down the chimney. So think of the strategy is, okay, I want to do something lasting in my family or at the workplace or in the marketplace. And
Yeah.
then the tactics is, so what am I doing today?
Hmm.
And so people that have this strategic whimsy are trying to spread a lot of joy like confetti as they do it. But underneath it, don't confuse that for a lack of clarity about why you're doing what you're doing.
Right. No, I love that. The confetti is a big part and the balloons are a big part of the fun that you
Yeah,
have.
come on.
How do you bring that to some of the really serious nonprofit work that you do?
Oh gosh, I tried death penalty cases against witch doctors that sacrifice children. I mean, it just does not get any heavier than
Hmm.
that. And yet, I don't walk around with a long face.
Hmm.
I don't walk around kind of grimacing or like. I'm folks. I know what I'm going to do in that area, and I'm gonna there. I've got a big justice Enneagram 8 thing going on. But there's also a compassion part, which is to say, why don't we instead of just like meting out justice, also start witch doctor schools? And we don't teach witch doctors how to be witch doctors. They
Right.
already know. We teach them how to read and write. And
Yeah.
so that whole idea that could be a strategic whimsy, like you go, well, let's go into the mouth of the lion and at the same time do something super practical. And I'll bring the trial judge along and say, if you deviate, we will try the case under that mango tree and it ain't going to take long and you will never be seen again. So you can say that with a smile,
Right.
but there's like kind of with a little twinkle in your eye. And I
Yeah.
just feel like you get further with honey than vinegar. You
Oh,
just do. When I was dealing with mean lawyers, and it was always somebody with a really high bar number. In other words, some young buck just
right.
got admitted to the bar and they're all up. They watch too many movies. And it would make me mad. And I would think I wouldn't raise my voice. I only raise my voice when I'm yodeling, and I've never yodeled. But I would think, you know what? You do not want to make people mad because then they'll work night and day to make sure you lose. And
Hmm.
so, what if you and I just say, like, honey would not melt in our mouth? We can be strategic enough to just chill out and not make everything a big, like, me versus you thing. And yet, you can have that strong justice thing where you can call something out, but there's a kinder way to do it. It usually isn't, I'm not nice enough to have that be my first reaction, but
Hmm.
usually my second or third reaction is somewhere in the zip code. So I just don't go with my first.
Yeah.
Like, so I just go, there's something, I keep that, in the cartoons where they have a thought bubble, I just
Right.
leave it in my thought bubble. And
Hmm.
when somebody says something kind of untoward or mean or whatever, I just think to them in a more generous way than I would otherwise. I
Hmm.
just think, oh, that just slipped out of their thought bubble.
Yeah.
Like me, they're still working on their people skills.
Hmm.
I'm just keeping more in my thought bubble, and my goal is to have it not enter my thought bubble, and I'm not there yet. But I just, since
It's
it did enter, I'm keeping it captive because I'm not going to get anywhere by making people agitated.
yeah, yeah. That's the thought
And that's
bubble.
actually good advocacy.
Absolutely. And I love that analogy of I need to keep it in the thought bubble and not, and that takes effort a lot of times, at least for me,
Oh,
to just go, ew.
yes, yes, yes. It does because what you want to do is like get even. Like, you can't say that to me. Who are you to whatever? And I just don't feel like my goal here is to met out justice to people. I
Yeah,
do want people to be thoughtful, not like sending thank you cards thoughtful,
right.
but I want them to be reflective. I want them
Hmm.
to be self-aware and all that. But instead of saying somebody, you need to be more self-aware, then maybe I could model that by being self-aware. If I
Yeah.
want vulnerability, maybe I could model that by being more vulnerable. Instead of coming up with to-do lists for everybody else, when I've come up with a
On my
to-do
own.
list,
Yeah, I
it's
get
a
it.
target-rich environment in terms of character flaws that could, use a little rounding off of the edges.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned your trial work leading you to having the justice mindset, and I believe that's what led you to create Love Does and the work that you do in those countries. Is that correct?
Yeah. I
Okay.
started Love Does because nobody would have me. I went to all these nonprofits and said, I mean, I have very few friends and no hobbies, so I got all kinds of time. So I said, can I work for you for nothing? And every one of them said, no, I'm not going to tell you the organizations, but you would recognize them.
Yeah.
And they were all like, and that was just good judgment on their part. But rather than trying to build consensus, I want to build a kingdom. And
Hmm.
that whole, it's not a Bob Kingdom, but I want to do something that's actually lasting. So all I could figure out is I'll just do it myself.
Yeah.
So it wasn't born out of this fierce independence. It was born out of everybody else having such good judgment to not include me in what they're doing, but then being scrappy enough to say, well, I may not do it awesome, but I could do it okay. And I want to just try and like,
Gosh,
let's see if it works.
I hope you see you're doing such amazing things and making such an incredible impact. You had an event in Nashville, Tennessee several years ago that I was able to join. My husband and I came to join.
Oh,
It was like fundraising, but um just the people that were there supporting you and all the people that you support was just such a heartwarming, incredible environment to be around. Like you could just feel the energy of the room of people just there to give and there to be present for you and all the things that you do. You and Sweet Maria, just everything that your family does is just such a positive, overflowing impact. And it that to this day resonated with me. And you do such great work.
wasn't that a fun
Yeah.
evening? That just brought me right back.
Yeah. Lauren
Uh,
Daigle was there with us. She
yeah,
sang.
I remember she signed her guitar as kind of an afterthought,
She
and then
did.
we said, well, since this is an auction, let's auction off. I think we got way into the six figures for that. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good night.
Yeah, you,
Um,
you
and
did because I started and then I was like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah,
So,
I know, but it passed more than I paid for my
yeah,
first house.
right.
But the whole idea is that, and again, that would be the strategic whimsy.
Yeah.
We have a fundraiser one time every 20 years. So we did it in 2001 and 2021. We'll do the next one 2041 because I don't want to compete against
Yeah.
all these really amazing nonprofits that need to raise money every year.
Yeah.
So when we need some money, I just write another book.
I love it.
Or there's a whole community of people. We're like the concierge at a nice hotel. If you go in and you say, hey, I'm hungry, then they'll say, well, do you want Italian? Do you want a hot dog? Do you want a burger? If you want a burger, do you want a smash burger? Do you want a gourmet? What do you want?
Yeah.
And so, in some ways, we just see ourselves as the concierge saying, with people's generosity, is there anything we can do to be
Yeah.
helpful? And it comes from the Benedictine tradition. They had something they were called porters, and the porter would go down to the fence each morning, and when people passed by, he said, "How can I help you on your way?" And so
Hmm.
we perceive ourselves not as guides, but we're more like porters. We're like Sherpas
Yeah.
that we tell people, hopefully in books and other things, like a good Sherpa doesn't tell you which mountain you're climbing. They say they break trail, they get into your backpack and they say, oh, if you want to get to the top of that mountain, you don't need all this extra stuff you're carrying. So
Yeah.
they're always lightening your load. So I want to be that Sherpa. And there's some people that you meet that are making the burden heavier.
Mm.
They're telling you what's going to do, where you're going, and they won't cook the meals, but they'll order out. And I just feel like we want to just help people get where they're going faster. If faith is their jam, we want to help them get there faster. If humanity is their jam, if
Love
purple
it.
whales are their jam, whatever we get, we're the
I
concierge.
love it. I
How
love
can
it.
I help you on your way?
And I see that and I feel that in the work that you do. And I just, again, it's very heartwarming. You mentioned a lot of the proceeds, if not all the proceeds from your books, go to your charity organizations. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I love it.
crazy.
I love it.
And you know what? It saves me from making like bake sales because if I made cupcakes, people would die. I
Mm,
just like, but if there's a typo, actually, you can't call it a typo if you didn't know how to spell it in the first place. So all of my typos are just oops. I can
yeah,
barely spell cat. But I think that again, some strategy behind that to just say, gosh, if you wrote good words, and then if there's a community of people that identified with that, usually they identify because they have something to say or
mhm,
write or do. So it's almost like we're all just finding each other. And to
yes,
say, it's not like I don't have a plan. It's like we're doing these things. Do any of those blow your hair back? And if they don't, if there's something else, even if it's an outlier, then shoot, let's talk about it. Maybe yes, maybe no, but let's
yes.
just like a big Greek wedding, you just grab the shoulders of the person in front of you and say, Opa, and
That's
then
right.
you're on the way.
I love it. So, what projects or initiatives are up next for you? You mentioned in our messages back and forth that you're writing a new book. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that or not, but that's exciting.
Yeah, totally.
What's this book on?
Authors are always authing. I know that's not a word, but it ought to be. So this next one is about how love just shows up, how I've seen love show up in different people's lives in different ways. I'm thinking the men in blue that I get to spend some time with. If they have been incarcerated, then if you do like a ice plunge, like contrast therapy, then they'll need to lift one leg out of the in the air because they got their ankle bracelet on
That's
it.
right.
And so you just gotta like kind of flex with the things that are happening. So I think the things that are the largest thing we're doing is a university in Uganda. And let me just preface this idea. I'm just a big fan of this idea of loving your neighbor. And if faith guides your steps, you're going to find very few things in the scriptures about going across an ocean. You're going to find a ton of things about going across the street. So it sounds noble to be doing something far away. It just isn't the model, like loving your neighbor where they are, next door to you,
Yeah.
across the street, behind you, because they're kind of annoying and you need to love them anyway, because you're stuck with them and they're stuck with your annoying habits. So across the pond in Uganda, we started maybe 25 years ago a school. And we told 400,000 kids that in the Civil War, where they were abducting them and giving them arms and all that, we said, we'll put you in school for nothing. And on the first day of school, 9 kids showed up. But I wasn't bummed. I'm like, we got a soccer
I
team.
was gonna say you got nine. That's great.
I know that's something. And then there was 19 and 99 and now fast forward, there's 2,000 kids living on campus at just one of the schools. And we thought, let's bring these kids from diapers to doctorate. Let's
Mhm.
take them all the way through. So we said, we're going to start a university. I don't mean a cardboard sign on an
Right.
old brick building, but like a world-class university, which is pretty daunting for a guy that my worst subject in school was school. So I'm still learning all this stuff. But the thing that was the hook on it is I remember passing a message to the gal that's the president of Love Does Now, Jody, and I said, we're going to build a zoo. Because I remember that movie, we built a
We built a
zoo
zoo.
and
I loved
yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah, but then it turns out it's called a habitat. I'm like, whatever, it's a zoo. And we were trying to think of animals that didn't bite people and be hard to lose. And then I'm like, giraffes. And this is the way creative ideas are born. You have a vision, you have this idea about something that could really impact people for generations to come. That hopefully you're just doing it right across the street rather than far away. But then you say, what are some of the strategies to get there? And so it turns out that all the giraffes in Uganda are owned by the president of Uganda. Didn't know that. Guess it's a job perk. 3,740 of them, give or take. And so I don't know him, but I do know his wife pretty well. So we met with her and talked about giraffes. We didn't talk about universities. And she ran across their version of the White House, grabbed him by the ear, and for the next hour, we sat down and talked giraffes. And I walked out of there with 6 giraffes.
I love it.
So the whole idea is you're listening to this is to think, what is your big ambition? Is it lasting? Does it understand what you want, vet it, and understand why you want it? Because if you want applause, join the circus. But if you want to actually make a difference, then just say, is this kind of a lasting thing? Is it not about me and names on buildings and all
Yeah.
that? And then, and just say, okay, so then what is the next craziest thing I could do to get that thing in? And we will break ground. I'll fly back there in the next couple of weeks and we're breaking ground. We've got enough money. We're like doing it.
I love it. I absolutely, and one of the items that you even auctioned off was someone to go with you over to
Yes.
Uganda for like the graduation or the end of school or whatever.
Yes.
And again, that one was like, honey, can I have like this much? And he was like,
Yeah.
yes. And I was like, and I'm out. Like, I was, darn it. I'm so
Oh
close.
man, well just come.
It's
Yeah,
so
I think
fun. I
just
love
like
it.
I like this pickup basketball game that we're all invited. There's no cool kids table, there's no whatever. And I think that inadvertently sometimes separates us out. I don't know the psychology behind it, but there's just a lot of glancing at what other people are doing or seeing, do I actually kind of belong to this thing? Am I
Hmm.
whatever? But the more that you and I, in all the things we could do, is just to say, hey, everybody's invited. From the books, I put my cell phone number
You
in the back
did.
of 3 million books. And I did that not because I'm looking for new friends, although I always am looking for new friends, but the whole idea is I wanted to drop these things that start separating us from one
Hmm.
another. You have
Hmm.
somebody who gets a bit part in a movie, and then all of a sudden you have to talk to their agent, or some
Yeah.
dude from Tennessee writes a country western song about a big old truck and a big old dog or something. And then some people like it. So then now you can't talk to that person.
Yeah.
So what if we went the opposite way? I think Jesus, other
Hmm.
people that have influenced the world, always were just weirdly available. So
Yes.
I just want to be that guy. I just
I,
want people to know like we are all in this. There's no
yeah.
cool kids table. We're just
Love
like
it.
all like figuring it out.
Yeah. I love it. Your books, Love Dozen, Everybody Always was were the first two that I read, and they're so relatable. The way that you tell stories and just how you live your life is just it's just fun. And it just seems like I like you draw people to you because of that playfulness that you have, and you still are making the difference. You're still doing the big things that move the needle, and I just think that's amazing.
I've got a whole pile of grandkids now, and they just delivered yesterday a little potter's wheel. So I got it on Amazon. And so about now, we'll start making plates and saucers and cups and all that for Christmas time.
Love it.
So if we were to start now between doing this and having a break and sending it to get bisqued and then painting them and all that. This is about a 4 month run would be a good starting point. But I want us to each, as we're reflecting on this, like to say, okay, so what are my needs and wants and aspirations? And then to hover over each of the people in our lives to say, what is it that I could do for them that they uniquely need from me? And so to create that memory, to make an old out around plate or a crummy cup, or
Yeah.
I just want us to be thinking big, giraffes, universities, all that.
Hmm.
And then thinking like get right down to what's something lasting right here at the neighborhood level. Who can you take to Starbucks, or
Right.
even better, who can take you?
Hmm. Right.
I should
Yeah,
say,
absolutely.
make
And
them pay.
yeah, and you're right. It needs to start. There was a quote that I heard years ago, but about how I want to make the world a better place. Well, wait, I need to make my my country a better place, and it narrows down all the way down to I need to make
Yeah.
my house a better place and my street a better place and all those things. So I do appreciate that.
I think people ultimately, I'm no psychologist, but this idea resonates with me that people want safe people. And
Hmm.
then if we feel like somebody isn't safe, it's sometimes because we've encountered someone else and that slide comes up in our mind of like, oh, last time
Hmm.
that happened. And I think it's a primal kind of caveman thing. There's
Yeah.
two caves, and one caveman has a T-Rex as a pet, and the other one has a parrot. And then one day the guy with the parrot looks over and the guy in the cave isn't there anymore. And the T-Rex is kind of licking his chops. So he has this mental frame. He goes like, oh, T-Rexes aren't safe. And
Hmm.
indeed, he's correct.
Hmm.
Um, but what we do is we have these experiences, both good and bad with people. We create the frame. We put the frame around everyone in every circumstance. So what I'm
Yeah.
really aiming to do is to be Switzerland. Like I
Hmm.
just, nobody's mad at them. They're not
Yep.
mad at anybody else. It isn't because I don't have an opinion. I'm a trial lawyer. I got an opinion about everything, but I've learned the art of shutting up.
Yeah.
Like it's
Is
just
that, can I quote that? The art of shutting
yes,
up, Bob Goff.
yes.
I
There's
love that.
something really beautiful about that.
Yeah.
Just start with you. Just
Yeah.
sometimes to just not say, to have an economy of words
Yeah.
um, would be really helpful sometimes.
Yeah. I
When
agree.
somebody's trying to explain something they're in, to instead of give them advice, ask them what is it that is the thing underneath the thing? Like what made you do that? Like what is it that
Hmm.
made you want to do that? Because I haven't
Yeah.
heard of anybody who wanted to do that before. And to say, oh, where did that come from? I'm just
Yeah.
curious. And not playing junior psychologist, but to
Yeah.
be genuinely curious about how did you arrive
Yeah.
at that idea?
Yeah. There's no judgment. I just want to
Yeah.
understand where you're coming from and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there were some guys that were these young filmmakers at the time, and they had a lot of notoriety later. But they said they heard I had this expensive video camera. I'm not sure why I had it, but I guess we were filming something. And so they said, can I borrow your video camera? We're going to Burma. And I said, well, okay, because I didn't want to be stingy. I said, well, you take care of it because it costs more than my car. I don't have a nice car, but it's like, it's an expensive camera. So then they went and then they came back. And I didn't want to be like the guy to say, hey, where's my camera? But then they offered like, hey, the camera we borrowed. I go like, oh yeah, I actually do remember that. And they said, well, we gave it to one of the Free Burma Rangers because they wanted to go in and videotape some of these bad things that were happening. And like, dude, what was his name? And they said, I don't know, but he was in charge. I was like, oh, dude, you gave my expensive camera to a guy in camos that was going to go into a jungle and whatever. 4 months later, I got a box, a shoe box, and inside it is the camera, and it's perfect.
Love it.
And so, my point in saying that is that when you live this kind of life, there's going to be a lot of ambiguity in it, and you just need to decide
Hmm.
what's your appetite for ambiguity, and then what are the frames I put over the, because the next person that asked me to borrow something, I put the frame of
Yeah.
if I can get a camera back from the Free Burma Rangers 4 months later from
Right.
another continent, I'll
It-
probably get my car back. Oh,
right.
I lent two go-karts I have to somebody, and I can't to the life of me remember who I lent them to. All I remember is lifting them into the back of their truck and them saying, thanks, we'll be right back with them. I've never seen them again. And it's
Uh,
been, I think, 12 years. So I think those are gone. But I'm not putting the frame
yeah.
around all the things that
Yeah.
happened to me that, well, I'll never see it again. I'm
Yeah.
putting the Free Burma Ranger frame. I'm just going
Nice.
like, if I can get a count, I don't know where those
That
go-karts went.
right.
Yeah,
I
but
love
so
it.
I just think there's something very enticing about that for us, and that we can,
Yeah.
for your listeners, to just say,
Yeah.
hey, what experiences are we overlaying on the top of the
Hmm.
different opportunities that are coming?
And that's a great transition from talking about fun things that we do and some troubles to so often when we go into work, again, we think, a lot of people, not everybody, oh, I have to go to work today, or oh, this is going to be so boring, or oh, this strategic session has to be terrible. It doesn't have to be terrible. And if we just open our minds and think, it might be great, it might be terrible, but I'm going to hope that it's great. I'm going to give it all my effort and I'm going to have fun with it. What are some ways that, I mean, obviously, I already said you're very fun and you have an amazingly magnetic personality. What are ways that you bring fun into your workplace? Maybe if you're having those deep dive sessions.
Yeah, well, a couple practices that have been super helpful for me. I don't keep track of the number, but I'd say probably on average five people a day I just send a note to. There's a guy, it was his anniversary tomorrow, so I sent a note to him today. Happy anniversary tomorrow, because I know that guy forgot that tomorrow's his anniversary. So
Love
just
it.
like help a brother out. So there's somebody else that wrote a song that I thought was like, kind of a toe tapper. And I don't know them from Adam, and I'm not looking for a new best friend, but I just wrote them a little note to say, way to go. That was like a
Yeah.
really great thing. You're releasing just a lot of hope into a world that needs that in the air supply. And again, I don't expect to receive a response. I just like some of that, just one practice, just getting some stuff out there.
Yeah.
As a consequence, like go do that for 20 years and you'll know quite a few people over the time. You'll just
Yeah.
develop these unlikely friendships.
I love it.
I'd say also know how to keep a secret. Like as a lawyer, like I keep secrets as a living. Like I have a lousy poker face. Like people will say they did something, and they're like, what? I'm like, stop it. So, but to learn how to keep a secret, to be, again, another way of saying be a really safe person.
Yeah.
So I'd say outward facing, engaging,
Hmm.
always pushing that out, not being a gadfly, but just pointing out things that people did a great job on, or if somebody's
Yeah.
encountering a really rough patch in their life, to just drop them a note to say, man, this, no need to respond. Just know this is a hard time
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. I
Instead of
love that.
saying something that it isn't corny, but let me know if I can help. It's just like
Hmm.
at a time like this, to say instead to say, I'm going to check back in 2 months, and let's see if there's something that I'm doing that might be helpful to
Yeah.
you. I've got
Yeah.
a retreat center and a this and that, and so sometimes then people, it'll be the beginning of a friendship where somebody's going through a hard time. They can't process it now, but about 2 months from now, they know, oh, there's a safe a guy or gal out there
Yeah.
that this is the second time I've heard from them.
Yeah.
So anyway, things like that, and then following love's lead, and not in a mystical way, but just like when you have an opportunity, just follow up on it. So if somebody invites you somewhere, even if it seems unlikely, be the one person that says, "See you there."
Yeah.
Uh,
I've learned that that's dangerous. A friend of mine said something about, I've always wanted to go skydiving. Will you go with me? And I was like, sure, why not? She held me up to that. And I'll
yes,
never forget getting my tandem suit ready, and the jump guide, whatever they're called, said, when we're ready to jump out of the plane. I was like, I'm not jumping out of anything. When you're ready for us to go, you could push me and then we're going to be.
yes,
But it was the most amazing experience I've ever had in my life. It was so like just, and I paid for the recording because I was like, this ought to be very comical later, at least to show my grandkids. He asked me on the ground, he was like, how was it? And I literally had no words. Like none of the words that I was coming up with were adequate to describe just how awesome it was. So I love that.
yeah,
Just saying, yeah, let's do it. Sure, why not? Like let's do this. It's
yeah.
a great way to live.
I think of another practice that can be helpful is note taking. That if you want to live a noteworthy life, like just take notes on things that have happened. I've written myself 5 or 6 notes just while you and I have been talking, because
Mhm.
I want to circle back to them. For anybody else, they'd be a bunch of misspellings and all that. But for me, I was just thinking, oh yeah, yeah, that brought me back to that
Mhm.
thing. I want to spend a little bit more time on that, but I don't want to
Yeah,
forget it. I
right.
don't want to make big things small and small things big. So I'm not trying to, if I have a really great experience, I'm thinking of these guys from San Quentin for 3 days, all these really meaningful things happened. And I told them, you're going to go back and I want you to think somebody's going to say, how was your weekend? And don't say, fine, or
Hmm.
it was great,
Yeah,
or whatever, but ask, how much time do you have?
yeah,
Because what if you ask that question, then you'll find out if somebody is just being polite, which is a good thing. I'm all for it. But to say how much time do you have, then so let's make a big thing a big thing.
Mhm.
And then if you don't have time, I'm not going to reduce the size of what happened to
Yeah.
the size of the amount of time that you have.
Yeah.
And there's no bad guy in this, and there's no hero in this, but you can control what you do to keep the big things big things. And similarly, you want to keep the small things small things.
Hmm.
I was learning how to fly an airplane because we live in this remote part of Canada, and that's the only way in and out. And after a surprisingly few lessons, they send you up alone for your solo. And you want to keep your head moving around. And you look at everything, and then you divide the sky into 10%. 10% of the sky, 10% of the, take a hard look at that. And I was up there and I was making my lap, and I looked out, and San Diego is a very busy airspace. I saw there's this like 747 way in the distance, but you can see if you're on a collision course because they will not change in bearing to you,
Hmm.
right? If
Hmm.
it's moving ahead, that means you're going to pass behind. If
Yeah.
it's doing the other, then you're going to pass in front. But it was on the same thing. So I'm like, don't freak out. And I went down 1,000 feet. But as I descended 1,000 feet, it descended 1,000 feet. I'm like, we're still on this collision course because it ain't moving. And so I'm like, don't freak out. I went up 3,000 feet.
Uh-huh.
And predictably, as I went up 3,000 feet, it went up 3,000 feet, and it was looking a little bit bigger to my eye. And now I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And I realized rather than freaking out, I took a harder look, and it was a bug on the window. And yet, because it was right here, it looked
Hmm.
like a 747 to me. And sometimes what we do is we catastrophize. We take these small things and we make them big things, and then your relationships are wonky, and your work is wonky, and you hate your job and all that. Let's keep the small things the small things. To
Yeah.
say they're probably having a bad day. A
Yeah.
generous explanation, like the most generous one you can come up with.
Yeah.
That
I love
always
it.
works.
I love it. So a couple wild card questions. When was the last time you played with Lego bricks?
Oh gosh, yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah.
grandson number two was
Ah,
over here, and we built a guy on a John Deere tractor. It was red, and they're
uh-huh.
usually green. That I have to get back to Lego on that. So a John Deere tractor, and I was putting the stems in the carrots. And we were
Nice.
explaining that the largest manufacturer of tires in the world is not Goodyear, it is Lego.
It is Lego. Isn't that amazing? So I'll have to get your address because I normally send my guests a packet of Legos.
Come on.
It's part of the Lego Serious Play coaching methodology that I've been using, and it's phenomenal.
Done.
So I'll send it to you.
Done.
I'll message your team, and we'll get the address and the number of grandkids that we need and all that stuff covered. So, and then I thought I had another question. What's your favorite memory from your work with Love Does?
I think the seeing a kid, his name is Obomo, not Obama, Obomo, and Oboma's parents had been killed by the Lord's Resistance Army, actually burned alive in it. Just really gruesome background story that he had. And he came to our school, and Obama wanted to be a lawyer. And he was like 8 years old. And so we tracked with him all from 8 through 18. He graduated as the valedictorian of a class of 500. He went to law school. He graduated from law school. And he just became a lawyer.
I
So to
love
think the arc of his life,
it.
surrounded by, this isn't a Bob story. It says the teachers, the
Mm,
students, everybody that believed in him, that lived with him,
yeah.
that were his neighbor, right there, not somebody from across the ocean. And yet, you and I could be that silent force that sets the table for people to come up and just show their best. So I think a favorite memory is celebrating the community of people that poured into his life that
Mm,
made his dream come true.
absolutely. That's remarkable. Thank you for sharing. If you have shared a lot with us today, and I'm so appreciative for all the little tidbits. If you could give our audience one thing out of your toolbox to take from our session today, what would that be?
I'd say that's a kind of a closing thought that you're going to meet lots of people. I will too, today, tomorrow, next week. and they'll all have opinions about that. And will it even be asked? I'm a lawyer. I get asked, hey, what's your opinion? And sometimes they mean a legal opinion or a personal opinion. But I would ask people, what's your experience? So if you ask somebody their opinion, they're like ears. Everybody's got a couple of them, except Van Gogh. But if you ask your experience, then that's a different thing, and you get more clarity about it. So if you ask with a financial matter, like what should I do? I would want to know that this is their third bankruptcy and their whatever. And I get it. Times are hard and setbacks happen unexpectedly, but it would give me some context for what was going to follow as their opinion. There was a guy, I'm planning on sailing across the ocean again. And I don't know why I do, because I just hurl the whole way. But I'll drop 20 or 30 pounds on the way. And I want to bring my kids and maybe a grandkid or two. But there was a guy that found out about that, and he told me the life draft I should get and the sails and the food and all that. And I said, oh, are you a sailor? And he said, no, I've never left Ohio. And he had all kinds of opinions. He
Right.
just didn't have any experience. And so as we each launch into the week, ask people and give people your experience, not your opinion.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. I am so appreciative of you joining us today. Bob, you're an amazing person. My audience can find you www.bobgoff.com. And you
That's
also have
it.
lovedoes.com, correct?
I think so.
Yes.
I think
Okay.
that might
Yes.
be .org, I'm guessing.
Oh, we'll put it in the show notes for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Okay.
I'm a pretty easy guy to find.
Yeah. And Bob is also the owner of the Oaks Retreat down in San Diego, where y'all do lots of different activities and workshops. And you do book writing workshops, and you've done some relationship conferences or workshops and stuff. It's a phenomenal place. If you've never been, check out the Oaks Retreat Center in just south of San Diego. What's the city?
Yeah, it's up by Julian, a little
Okay.
mining town up there.
Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful place. So check it out. Bob, thank you again. I will be messaging you very soon for the Lego bricks to send for you and your grandchildren to play.
Hooray!
It's so much fun. Thanks for joining us.
Day made. Thanks a million. And
have
for
a great
everybody
day.
out there, just like you, when you find a good Sherpa like this podcast, then take some notes about what's said and then go do that and find trustworthy voices in your life. And I think you found one right here on this podcast.
Thank you, Bob. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody. That's a wrap on another episode of Play for Performance. I hope today's conversation sparked some ideas for how you can bring more joy and engagement into your workplace. Remember, transforming workplace culture doesn't happen overnight, but every small step toward play and connection makes a difference. Try one thing we discussed today, even something small, and see what happens. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who could use a little more play in their professional life. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our weekly conversations with incredible guests who are changing the game of workplace engagement. Have a guest suggestion or want to share your own play at work story? Reach out to me at Jolynn at elevateyourtalent.co or find me on LinkedIn. I love hearing from you. Until next week, keep playing, keep performing, and remember, work doesn't have to be taken seriously to be serious. This has been Play for Performance. I'm Jolynn Ledgerwood, and I'll see you next time.